Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my must-have eyeshadow palettes for the fall. These are not new eyeshadow palettes. These are ones that you very well might already own if you have been collecting makeup for a while, as I have. I love doing these videos every year. They're kind of like a shop my stash. They encourage me to use the products I already have and hopefully do the same for you guys. Now I do have 15 palettes to share with you guys today. I know that is a lot, but my intention in picking so many is that hopefully you might own a handful of these as well. Maybe you have forgotten about them and this is a good time of year to pull them out because all of these are fantastic color stories for fall that run the range. We'll go through them all, look at some swatches. It should be a lot of fun. I'm excited about it. I love these kinds of videos. Hopefully you guys do too. Before we get into the palettes though, if you are new here, welcome. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet and make sure that your notifications are turned on. Now let's get right to it. Okay, so as I mentioned, these are not in any particular order. Let's start with these two right here. First off is the Patrick Ta Major Dimensions eyeshadow palette. This is the original. I love this eyeshadow palette. The formulas in here are so unique and beautiful. I love that he gives you a couple of creams with this little flap right here. Anyone else love that Patrick Ta does this? Like he separates his creams with a little flap. I don't even know that it does anything. I just think it's kind of fun. It just feels like they're extra special. I don't know, that's kind of a silly side point, but this is such a beautiful color story. Definitely on the warm side, very, very rich. I mean, the looks that come out of this palette, when I'm wanting to go like super rich and smoky and really nice textures, some good like glitter toppers, this is a fun one that I love to reach for, especially this time of year when I'm looking for like cozy warmth. Next up is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Rose Metals palette. I think I featured this in a video recently. This is such a great color story. This palette, when I first got it, I kind of reluctantly bought this one, thinking that the colors might be too dark for me. Now, I do like to reach for a shade lighter than what's given in here, usually in another palette or a single eyeshadow, because on its own, this is gonna give you more of a kind of smoky eye, and I usually don't like to do that. And this has become like a no-break rule for me lately as I've experimented with eyeshadow looks over the years. My eye shape really needs something bright on my inner corner. Otherwise it just completely closes off my eyes and I just don't think it looks very good on me when I have a lot of depth all the way in. But that said, I do love the tones in here. You get good variety for fall. I mean, you get a little bit of green, you get some berries, you get some really rich kind of coppery, not quite orangey, but very warm browns. I love Anastasia's formulas. I think she still makes some of the best formulas out there. And this palette is so, so good. It's really grown on me over the last, I think I've had it for 2 years now, and I love it. Okay, now let's talk about the most expensive palette that I own. Probably most of you don't own this one because I don't know who in their right mind would get suckered into buying this expensive thing. I did, but maybe a few of you did as well. This is the Pat McGrath Mothership palette. This is the number 6. Now, this palette is fantastic. I mean, it weighs 4 pounds. It's very sturdy and heavy. The formulas are really nice. In my defense, I did get this normally $125 eyeshadow palette, and it may have gone up. I haven't even looked at her full-size eyeshadow palettes for a while since inflation hit us all. But I think I got mine for around $80. In hindsight, as much as I love this and I love the formulas, I probably wouldn't do it again. I don't know that it's worth that extremely high of a price tag, but it is a beautiful palette, especially in the fall. Again, you get a good variety in here of some neutral browns. You get a little bit of red, which I love this red right here. You actually get a really cool, almost charcoaly deep brown down here. And this glitter topper, this is kind of the formula that she's known for in these palettes, and it really is something special. So if you happen to own this one, pull it out and give it some love because my goodness, this is a pretty penny. Okay, let's talk about some drugstore ones. This palette is the Nubian 2 by Juvia's Place. This is the first palette by Juvia's Place I ever tried, and it just has such fall vibes for me. And there's a little bit of nostalgia in this one because it was early on in my YouTube channel when I really started getting into eyeshadow palettes. I mean, we're talking back in the days when the Born to Run palette came out. Do you guys remember? I almost wish I would have kept that palette. This is around that same time period that I picked up this palette and discovered Juvia's Place as a brand. I just love the fun variety that they give, but this is by no means a super colorful palette. Even the blue here, which let's be honest, I don't use the blue very often, but it is a somewhat wearable blue. Like you could use this with some of the neutrals and get a very wearable eye look out of it. And then everything else gives you such a fun variety of neutrals. I love that you get some warm browns and then a cool brown. I love the berry tones. You get some gold, you get some green. It's just such a great palette. I feel like I'll always have a special place in my heart for Juvia's Place. And in particular in the fall, this palette. I'm sure many of you that have been watching me for several years have bought this palette on my recommendation. It is the Nomad palette by Juvia's Place. I've long admitted that this is one of my very favorite eyeshadow palettes. I'm just about to hit pan in this center shade, although I think I said that the last 2 years as well. I will be honest, as much as I love this palette, I just have so much now. Even the stuff that I really love, I don't use a ton because I try to rotate through things so often. Still, if you have this thing and maybe forgot about it, pull it out. These greens right here, well, this is not even a green. I would call this a brown. This is kind of more of a, it's like a pukey green, but it's so fun on the eyes. I love this deep, deep green for the crease or as a liner, kind of smoked out into the outer corner. It is amazing. This lid shade is one of the best lid shades ever created, which I say every time I pull out this palette. And it's pretty affordable. I think you can still get this for around $20. For those of you that are into cool tones though, I have a palette that's new to me, but if you are a cool tone fan, you probably own this one. It's the Stone Cold Fox palette by ColourPop. I've only had this for about 2 weeks now, and I've really been enjoying this. I'm surprised at how much I've been enjoying this. I mean, it's already a mess. I don't know that you can see in my very bright lights. I have been loving this lately for a couple of reasons. You get some really pretty shimmers in here. It is very cool toned, but I love that you get a couple of really, really light shades to brighten up the inner corner and really lovely, rich, deep shades, including an extremely pigmented black. And I've been loving, after I put a little bit of a winged pencil liner on my corner right there, going on top with like a liner brush and taking a deep brown. Sometimes I'll mix this deep brown and this black together and really just like putting it on top and kind of like feathering it in and smudging it out so I get this really like elongated, smoky outer corner that's not like gonna drown my whole eye in depth. I just really like that look, and this palette's really fun to get that with. It's a really fun one. I still haven't used this center section right here. Those are a little too cool for me, leaning blue, which I don't think looks very good on me. But other than that, I think I've used about everything else in here. It's been really fun to play with. And I am surprised at how much I've been enjoying the cool tone looks on me. Okay, this one is an old classic, the Pumpkin Spice palette from Too Faced. I know Too Faced just came out with a new apple scented palette. I'm very interested in that palette because I actually don't love the smell of pumpkin, but I love the smell of apples in the fall. So I feel like that one would even be a better fit for me than this one right here. Honestly, this is not my favorite palette in the world. It is good and it's fun. You can get some really fun eye looks out of this, but there's a lot of shades in here that I just don't touch. Probably any of these purples. I generally don't reach for cool toned purples. It's just not my style, but there is a lot of warm neutrals up here that are very pretty. It smells really nice. The packaging is always cute from Too Faced. And with the name and the smell of pumpkin spice, how can I not pull this out in the fall? Okay, I have two Natasha Denona palettes to highlight today. First off, the Yucca palette. This palette is like a fall sweater dream. I mean, I love the greens and the yellows and the golds and kind of these, it's like a taupe right here. You can get this lime green, which I'll be honest, I don't use the lime green very often, but I mean, everything else in here is just such a fun, slightly more colorful fall palette that's still inside my comfort zone. A lot of fun finishes in here. When I'm feeling a little bit more creative and really in that fall mood, this is one that is really fun to play with and I would highly recommend. And then we have probably the newest release that I'm talking about today is the Natasha Denona Golden palette. So I have been trying to use this and the new I Need a Warm palette kind of back and forth over the last couple of weeks. I'm still evaluating the two. Not that they're exactly the same, but they have a similar vibe. They're both like warmer brown, kind of bronzy palettes. I think that I am leaning towards liking this one a little bit better than the I Need a Warm. I think they're both nice. They're kind of similar to each other, but I just love the shades in this one. I love that you get a lot of brightness, which is an essential for me in a palette, but you get some really pretty shimmers, some fun formulas in here. It's a little more of like a peachy warm, which I really like. Nothing's too orange or too coppery. It's just a really beautiful, I mean, I guess just that golden, but none of the golds are too yellow, which I love. Okay, moving right along. I feel like we're going really fast. I'm kind of proud of myself. Now we're down to my smaller eyeshadow palettes. First off, this one from Nabla. This is the Nabla Cutie Analog palette. This is the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today. I kind of went with a more neutral look. I just kind of have a few of these. Actually, I have this shade kind of smudged above the crease. This one just worked right into the socket. And then this deep, cool brown right here, which is a cream formula smudged on top of my liner. And it is so beautiful. This is such a beautiful palette. I have the gold all over the lid as well. This is such a great gold. It's borderline being too yellow, but it just I don't know, for being such a strong gold, it's not as yellow as some golds tend to be. It's more champagne than yellow. I don't know if that made sense. I don't like yellows on my eyes. If it has too much yellow in it, I don't think it looks good on my skin tone. I don't know, it just kind of is not my favorite thing, but this is a gold that does work really well for me. Great formula, beautiful color story. This orange is kind of like, it's like a duochrome kind of corally golden orange, is so fun on the eyes as well. Just a great little palette, perfect for fall if you like those warm kind of orangey tones. And then this palette is not even made anymore, and honestly, it's not the best palette in the world, but I pull this one out every fall because I love the packaging so much, and it is the Huda Beauty Khaki Haze palette. It is pretty good. Huda Beauty's formula for me is kind of hit and miss. I've tried quite a few of her palettes out over the years, and I've probably decluttered about half of them. I don't know. Some of her formulas, I love her matte formulas. They're really good, really pigmented, blend easily, but I feel like her shimmer formulas sometimes just don't quite work very well for me. This one has a couple shimmer formulas that are, like this one, is a little bit hard panny. It's hard to get any color payoff or any pigment off of it. It's not unusable. I definitely still enjoy using this one in the fall. The color story is perfect for fall. But I do have a couple of criticisms with it. But let's just take a moment for this packaging. I mean, I will never get rid of this because this is the most beautifully packaged item I have ever seen. I can't get over it. I've been talking about it for years, and I will probably talk about it every fall from here till I stop doing YouTube videos. I wanted to highlight one Natasha Denona mini palette. I decided to go with the Mini Nude palette. This is such a classic palette. I use this one a lot in the summertime as well because I love a good kind of J-Lo bronzy eye in the summertime, and this just gives you the perfect bronze eye. I have no criticisms with this palette. It creates the perfect bronze eye look, and I love these type of palettes for travel. But if that one is outside of your budget, I have 3 more palettes to share that are all drugstore. First off, a couple from Wet n Wild. This one right here is their 10 Pan Color Icon Lights Off palette. This one leans a little bit cooler in tone, gives you some really rich kind of outer corner or liner shades. You get a dark brown, a dark green, a charcoal, and a black. And then you get some really interesting shimmers. This shimmer right here, which is so pretty. It's kind of like a duochrome, and I would say it's more like a glitter topper. It actually kind of reminds me of Natasha Denona's glitter toppers. Maybe the formula is not quite as high quality. I mean, we're talking $5 palette here, so I don't expect it to be, but it's beautiful. I mean, it has kind of like a little bit of purple, a little bit of green, a little bit of kind of brown or gray in it. It's just such a beautiful lid topper. You also get a really nice, strongly pigmented champagne, kind of more of a taupey silver right here, and a copper. This is just a really fun one that gives you some variety for $5. I think it's like $5.50 if you find this on Amazon or at Walmart. I still hold to this day these Color Icon palettes from Wet n Wild, I just think can rarely be beat at the drugstore. I also have a 5 Pan Color Icon palette. This is Sundays. This just looks like a pumpkin. I mean, if ever there's a time to put these colors on your eyes, it is in the fall. I love it. Now, these are definitely orange toned if you don't like shadows that pull too orange, but I don't mind a strong orangey eye look, especially in the fall. And this just gives you such a great one. You get a good kind of golden champagne here. It's kind of a bronzy that isn't too orange. Then you get a very orangey bronze here. And then this orange is more, I would say it's more brown than anything. It's kind of the color of my shirt. So on the eyes, this doesn't look as pumpkin-y as, say, this shade right here. This creates such a beautiful eye look. This one's, I think, only $2.98 or $3.98. If you like those warmer looks and you haven't picked this up yet, I would highly recommend. And then last, I have a palette from Essence. This is the Dancing Green palette. I've been raving about this palette for years. Really, I think I and every other YouTuber that likes drugstore makeup has been raving about these palettes from Essence in general for a while. They're almost all fantastic. There are a couple color stories. The gray one and the purple one I don't really like because they're a little bit too cool for me. But this one I think is still my favorite. I remember doing a video on this palette. I've done a lot of videos over the years, and there are a few that like stick in my mind vividly where something really jumped out at me and excited me. This is one of the few videos that I remember that experience because I was so impressed with this little green palette. It's the type of greens that I think, and I think I've said this before, forgive me if you've heard me rave about this thing before, but it's a green palette that works for people that are afraid of green. Nothing in here is overly bold. Like even this deep green right here, it's more of a It's more for kind of smoking out the outer corner, so it doesn't pull very bright or bold. The shimmers are more neutral, kind of taupey or more golden. You get a good neutral here. I just love this palette, especially for the fall. You really could use it in the winter and spring as well. I am very picky with my greens. There are only certain greens that I like on my eyes, and this one, I think they knocked it out of the park with this little palette here. And that is it, you guys. Those are my 15 eyeshadow palette must-haves that you may already own. I'm curious how many of these you guys had bought based on my or other YouTubers' recommendations, because I know a lot of these I've been talking about for a while. Today's not the first time. What are some of your favorite fall toned eyeshadow palettes? Are there any new eyeshadow palette releases that you guys are excited about? I've mentioned several times I'm kind of in an eyeshadow burnout phase. It's gonna take a lot to really draw me in. That apple one from Too Faced might get me, but if you have any that you have tried out recently that you think I'm missing out on, let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're doing well. Let me give you one last reminder to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Yes, I am burning a candle. I just ordered a couple new fall scented candles from Bath & Body Works. I'm not sure about this one. Don't you hate when you get a new candle and you go to burn it and you're just not so sure that you like it? It's always so disappointing. But I feel obligated to burn it, so I'm kind of like, maybe. But if you have to question, I feel like you probably don't like it that much.